Welcome back to the channel, everyone. This is episode 10. I want to start by saying thank you for sticking with me, all your continued support, the consistent group of you that are always retweeting, reposting, and sharing, liking everything on my social media. It means a lot to me. There's a consistent group of you who always do this, and it means to me more than I can put into words. Now, this episode is kind of a venting episode for me. I feel like every episode really is, but this one in particular because I really miss Obama. Now, originally I was going to do a video on the current government shutdown, but I've seen a lot of comparison from Trump supporters between Trump's shutdown we have right now and Obama's shutdown in 2013 for Obamacare, but it's a completely false equivalency. So I decided to kind of combine these two into one episode because it's my show and I can do whatever I want. Let me be clear, when I say I miss Obama, I'm not saying he was the greatest president ever. He made no mistakes, he did all the right or best decisions and never did anything wrong. I'm not saying anything like that. It's just a certain level of class and decency and poise and decorum that Obama and his family brought to the White House. Just look at his full 8 years in office. No scandals, no mistresses, no out of control children, no lawsuits, no talks of collusion, no allegations of sex with a porn star, and no talk of possible treason on his behalf, no indictments on anybody in his cabinet. Barack was just he was a class act, and he was an embarrassment to the country. You know, he wasn't laughed at by world leaders at the UN. He wasn't banned from John McCain's funeral. I think if you get banned by somebody's funeral, that really says a lot about you. He was never blatantly offensive to women or minorities or anyone that opposed him. When he was asked an aggressive question or tough question, or one he particularly didn't like, there was no lashing out like a child and telling the reporter to sit down and kicking them out or calling them rude or fake news or saying that they're biased against him or revoking their press pass. There was nothing like that. Obama had the intelligence and the poise to handle a tough question without ever being belligerent or disrespectful. Now, I'm not going to sit here and romanticize Barack's tenure as president and act like he has no blemishes or anything like that. I've got no problem calling out the issues that I have with his presidency. For instance, his use of drone strikes. He utilized drone strikes more than any other president. He actually had 506 drone strikes, which killed 3,040 terrorists, but also killed 391 civilians. So that's something that Barack is going to have to live with. I also feel he really didn't do enough for the black community. You know, immigrants got DACA, the LGBT community got legalized marriage. We even saw the legalization of weed in a select few states under Obama. But what specifically did he do for black and brown people, or just black people, really? We had the My Brother's Keeper mentoring program that he started, which I think is phenomenal, aiding young men to stay in school and to then continue their education, giving them a mentor. Apparently, something that they found was that young men who had a mentor were about 55% more likely to go to college and then 52% more to just graduate high school, which is amazing. But what about the dozens of people slain in the streets by police officers, black people slain in the streets by police officers, and nothing ever happening to them? So you got to remember, Mike Brown happened under Obama, Philando Castile happened under Obama, Eric Garner happened under Obama, but there was no specific legislation for these instances of black people dying at the hands of the people that are supposed to protect us. So I've got no issue with calling out Obama and the things that I didn't like. And I just feel like I was waiting a long time for him to do something, but it never happened when it comes, you know, as in reference to police officers killing black people. Okay, so real quick, just a correction. Philando Castile did not happen under Obama. I was actually referring to Alton Sterling because that was 2014, just like the other two cases I said. So just want to make that correction. All right, back to our regularly scheduled program. The reason I think it's important for me to explain the things that I like and dislike about Barack is because it keeps me honest with you all and myself. and it keeps people who have the mindset of, oh, you only like Barack because he's black, it keeps them from even ever opening their mouth. Because I can remember specifically when I was 12, 13 years old, being on a bus in middle school one morning, and a kid saying that to me. I remember exactly who the kid was. I could say his name. But that stuck with me, kind of resonated with me, and I kind of kept it with me, used it as a tool to make sure that I didn't let Barack's skin color cloud my judgment. But to anyone who feels like still, that's why you only like Barack, who might still think that, here's a bit of news for you. I didn't even vote for Barack. Now, not by choice, but by default. I wasn't even of age during any of his runs. I was 12 or 13 when he first ran, and then I was only 17 when he ran the second time. So the argument of me only liking Barack because he's black doesn't really hold a lot of weight or merit, because that doesn't really matter if I can't even vote for him in the first place. Even though I think there was more that Barack could have done as president, and specifically for black people, I can't put too much blame on him. He was fought tooth and nail by Republicans in Congress. You gotta remember Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. He literally said his goal was to make Obama a one-term president. And if I can find the video of that, I'll put the link in the description of this episode. So my point is, he was being rooted against and resisted before he was even in the White House. And some people think that Democrats are opposing Trump on this wall simply because it's Trump. And I can see some of that being the case for some Democrats, but not all of them. But even if it is, how is it any different from what was being done to Obama? Republicans didn't just say that they were opposed to Obama, they showed it too. They showed how opposed they were to him after the death of Justice Scalia and Obama. He nominated Merrick Garland to the Supreme Court. Merrick Garland was never given a hearing, and he was never voted on. And again, it was Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell who took pride in opposing Obama and saying only hours after the death of Justice Scalia that any nomination by Obama will be null and void. And the greatest moment of his life was when he looked Obama in the eye and said, "You will never fill that Supreme Court vacancy." It was Mitch McConnell's belief that that Barack's successor should have been the one to fill that vacancy, and they just went against Obama, partially, in my opinion, because he was a black man, and another part just because he wasn't part of their party. But yet Barack prospered on, was very resilient, and he just moved through it. You know what I mean? That's another thing that I liked about Barack. He knew how to move in a room full of vultures, and I think that's just the nature of a black person, because we're the most resilient people on the earth. Now to the shutdown. Like I said, a lot of people are making this comparison between Obama's shutdown and Trump's shutdown as if it justifies it, or as if there is even a real comparison. But again, like I said, I feel it's a completely false equivalency. So Obama's shutdown was for Obamacare, which would have provided health care to all American citizens, regardless of your opinion of Obamacare, if you liked it, if you didn't, if you thought it was good, if it worked or not. It was a bipartisan move, and it was for the benefit of all people, not just Democrats. And he wasn't going to declare a national emergency if he didn't get his way, because again, Barack is intelligent enough to know that would have tied the government up in a lot of litigation and prolonged the entire scenario much longer, and it would have been a complete abuse of power. Now, to Trump's current shutdown that we're in, it's a purely political move. It's his big campaign promise that he wants to bank on, and he's even said a couple times that he can't back down because it'll make him look weak or whatever. And he's changed his story about the wall over the past 2-3 years. It was Mexico will pay for the wall. Oh, they'll pay us back. Oh, they'll partially pay for it. They'll pay half or whatever. And now, where we are right now, it's give me the wall or I'm shutting the government down, which he's already done. Not only that, he said he would take the blame for it, but he reneged on that. Not that shocked. And he had the chance to build the wall when he had control of both the House and the Senate. And lastly, I just think that's way too much money. This might surprise a lot of you. I do think we need a wall. Not $5 billion worth, and all along the southern border, but it has shown to be effective in certain places, like Tucson, Arizona. In 2005, I think they put up a wall. In San Diego, California, I believe theirs was back in '92, and they've had significant reductions in their illegal immigration, and I'm talking 90 to 95% reduction in their illegal immigration and people crossing the border. So I do think that a wall can be useful in certain places, just not $5 billion worth. How about we put some of that money into personnel, into drones, electric fencing. 2019 is the year we're in. How about we put it into some actual technology, not just concrete slabs and metal poles or whatever stupid weird way he's describing the wall. So, you know, if there's anything that we can be critical of the Democrats on, is they need to be a lot less lax on illegal immigration. So to close this out, I'm gonna just say I really wish he could have ran one more time, but I know that ain't possible. But if it was, I think he would have served Trump to business. You know, head to head in a debate. I think again with his poise and intellectualism and the way he's able to articulate himself, that would have been a problem for Trump, and he would have made him look like an even bigger fool than he's already done on his own. And I think like he set the bar so high, and then you got somebody like Trump coming in at like a -72. So it's going to be a while, I feel, until we see somebody with that level of poise and decorum and absence of dysfunctionality like we had with Obama. And regardless of your political views, Republican, Democrat, Independent, whatever, I don't think there's anybody in this country that should feel like Barack was an embarrassment to the United States or represented us poorly. And nobody should be embarrassed by the 8 years that he held that office, because he held it to such a high standard. And again, there's no scandals, no collusion, no affairs with porn stars and nothing like that. And then let's just look at you know, the family aspect a little bit more. For goodness sakes, how many wives does Donald Trump have? 2, 3, 4, who knows? Your wife was basically a porn star. And then like let's look at Michelle and the things she did in the community as First Lady. So just at every aspect that you compare these two, it's just mind blowing. And they couldn't be more polarizing. You know, they couldn't be more polar opposites than they really are. So Barack really just was a dime a dozen. And it's a shame that we got to deal with this fool that we're dealing with now. But I pray to God that he's gone soon, whether that's, you know, him not winning in 2020 or him finally slipping up and crossing the line and getting himself impeached. But either way, again, the main message is I really miss Obama. Thanks for watching.